Adolf Hitler looked across the English Channel. He had conquered much of Europe, and now Britain was his next target. His generals prepared a bold plan named Operation Sea Lion. It was the code name for the invasion of Great Britain. The success of this operation depended on many factors. German forces were confident, having achieved swift victories before. They believed Britain could also be defeated. This plan, if successful, would change the world. The first step for the Nazis was crucial. They needed to control the skies over Britain. The German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, was powerful, with many planes and experienced pilots. Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, promised Hitler a quick victory. He believed his bombers and fighter planes could destroy the Royal Air Force. Without air superiority, German ships and landing craft would be easy targets. The English Channel was a dangerous crossing, and the Royal Navy was still strong. Only control of the air could protect an invasion fleet. So, the Battle of Britain began in the summer of 1940. German planes attacked British airfields and radar stations, aiming to cripple the RAF on the ground and in the air. Brave RAF pilots flew day after day. They were outnumbered but determined. Their Spitfires and Hurricanes became legendary. The fighting was intense and brutal, with the fate of Britain hanging in the balance every day. Small groups of British pilots faced waves of German attackers. Their courage was extraordinary. The initial German strategy focused on military targets. However, progress was slower than expected. The RAF fought back fiercely. Hitler and Göring grew impatient and decided to change tactics. They believed bombing cities would break British morale. If the people lost hope, Britain might surrender. London, the heart of the British Empire, became a primary target. This decision marked a new, terrifying phase of the war. The threat of invasion and tanks on British soil felt more real than ever. The Nazi war machine shifted its focus. Bombs began to fall on London in September 1940. This was the beginning of the Blitz. Night after night, German bombers flew over the city, their deadly cargo raining down. The sound of air raid sirens became common, and the darkness of the blackout was pierced by explosions. Londoners faced a new kind of warfare. The attacks were relentless, with each raid bringing death and destruction. The aim was to crush the spirit of the British people. London Bridge, an ancient and vital crossing, was a key target. It was not just a bridge, it was a symbol of London's resilience and a critical piece of infrastructure. Destroying it would disrupt transport and communication, cutting off important routes within the city. For the Nazis, hitting London Bridge would be a major propaganda victory, showing that nothing was safe and implying that German forces were closing in. The thought of Nazi flags on London Bridge was terrifying. The approach of German aircraft was tracked by radar, but many bombers still got through. They flew in large formations, protected by fighter planes like the Messerschmitt Bf 109. The bombers, like the Heinkel He 111 and Dornier Do 17, carried tons of explosives and also dropped incendiary bombs to start fires. The docks and industrial areas near the Thames were hit hard. London Bridge was in this heavily targeted zone. The fear was that after the bombers, tanks might follow if an invasion succeeded. The psychological impact was immense. Imagine Nazi tanks rolling towards London Bridge. This was the nightmare scenario. The Luftwaffe's attacks were meant to pave the way. If the RAF was defeated, ships would bring soldiers and tanks. London Bridge represented access to the heart of the city. Its capture or destruction would be a terrible blow. The bridge, standing for centuries, was now on the front line. The people of London knew what was at stake. Every explosion felt like a step closer to that dreaded possibility. As bombs fell, Londoners scrambled for safety. Anderson shelters were built in gardens, and Morrison shelters were set up indoors. Many people used London Underground stations as makeshift bomb shelters. Deep below the city streets, they sought refuge. There was panic, especially in the early days of the Blitz. Families were separated and homes were destroyed in moments. The constant threat wore people down. Yet, amidst the fear, a remarkable spirit began to emerge. The determination to carry on was strong. The government had made preparations. Blackout regulations were strictly enforced, making it harder for bombers to find targets at night. Air raid precautions wardens patrolled the streets, enforcing the blackout and helping during raids. Firefighters worked tirelessly to put out blazes. Auxiliary fire service members, many volunteers, faced terrible dangers. The Women's Voluntary Service provided food and comfort. Everyone had a role to play in defending the city. This was a people's war. The Home Guard was formed, consisting of men too old or too young for regular army service. They had basic weapons, sometimes just pikes, and trained to defend against a German invasion. Their presence was a comfort to some, showing Britain was ready to fight for every street. Children were evacuated from London to safer countryside areas, a painful but necessary measure. Daily life was completely overturned. Schooling was disrupted and shopping was difficult due to rationing and bomb damage. Despite the danger, Londoners tried to maintain normalcy. They showed incredible resilience. The slogan, "London can take it," became famous. People cleared rubble and went to work. Theaters and pubs sometimes stayed open. This defiance frustrated the Nazi leadership. They had expected London to crumble in fear. Instead, the Blitz seemed to strengthen British resolve. The shared experience of suffering and resistance forged a strong bond. The threat of tanks on London Bridge remained, but London was fighting back with all its might. The Royal Air Force was Britain's main shield. Though outnumbered, they had crucial advantages. British radar technology was advanced, giving early warning of incoming German raids. This allowed RAF fighters to be in the right place at the right time. The command and control system, led by Air Chief Marshal Sir Hugh Dowding, was efficient, managing fighter squadrons effectively. Pilots were guided by controllers on the ground. This teamwork was vital. The skill and bravery of the pilots were paramount. The Spitfire and Hurricane fighter planes were excellent aircraft. The Spitfire was fast and agile, a deadly match for the German Bf 109. The Hurricane was robust and a stable gun platform, shooting down many German bombers. Polish, Czech, Canadian, and other Allied pilots also flew with the RAF. Their contribution was significant. Key battles like the intense fighting on September 15, 1940, showed German losses were too high. This day is now celebrated as Battle of Britain Day. The Luftwaffe could not achieve air superiority. Because the Luftwaffe failed to defeat the RAF, Operation Sea Lion was postponed indefinitely. Hitler could not risk an invasion without control of the air. The Royal Navy still controlled the channel. German landing barges would have been destroyed. So Nazi tanks never rolled towards London Bridge. The ground invasion plans were shelved. The direct threat to the bridge and the city by land forces receded. London still suffered from bombing for years, but the immediate danger of conquest passed. The defense of Britain in 1940 was a major turning point in World War II. It was Hitler's first significant defeat. It showed the world that the Nazis were not invincible. Britain remained a base for future Allied operations. From Britain, the Allies would eventually launch the D-Day landings to liberate Europe. If Britain had fallen, the course of the war would have been very different. The courage of the few in the skies, and the resilience of the people on the ground ensured that London Bridge and indeed Britain itself remained free.